Being carried by alien women felt like a joke until he learned why they chose him. Jack was not the kind of man who enjoyed attention. He liked quiet mornings, a warm drink, and a slow walk through the market. The alien market on the edge of the human colony was full of colors and strange smells. Stalls overflowed with bright fruits, shining tools, and small alien pets that squeaked like wind chimes. He was reaching for a bag of green fruit when it happened. A shadow fell over him. Before he could turn, two huge hands grabbed his arms. His feet left the ground, and his stomach jumped. "Hey, what are you doing?" Jack shouted, his voice cracked. Two tall alien women carried him, as if he was no heavier than a child. Their skin shimmered under the sunlight, smooth but tough like polished stone. Their black hair was braided with silver threads, and their golden eyes glowed faintly. They were beautiful in a dangerous way, like statues that could kill you. "This is some mistake," Jack yelled. He kicked his legs, but their grip was like steel. The market went silent. People turned their backs. Some pretended to look at other stalls. No one came to help. That was the first thing that scared Jack. These were people who usually loved to stare at trouble, but today, they didn't want to see anything. The women spoke to each other in a sharp, fast alien language. Jack didn't understand a word. Their faces were serious. Not laughing, not teasing. He realized this was no joke. "Put me down." He tried again, louder this time. One of the women finally looked at him. Her golden eyes locked on his, and for a moment, he thought she might say something kind. Instead, she said two words in rough English. "You were chosen." Jack froze. Chosen? For what? They didn't answer. They walked faster. Their long strides made Jack feel his shoulder joints stretch painfully. He twisted, trying to see where they were taking him. The fruit stall was far behind now. The street narrowed, walls on both sides getting higher. Jack's mind raced. Was this a kidnapping? A bounty? Some alien ritual? He had heard stories about humans going missing on the outer colonies. Sometimes they were found, sometimes not. The women turned a corner, and suddenly a silver transport ship came into view. It was small, sleek, and shaped like a hunting bird. The back hatch was open, a ramp leading inside. "Hey, wait," Jack said, panic rising in his chest. "I don't know what you think I did, but I'm not going anywhere with you." Neither woman slowed down. One stepped onto the ramp, the other followed. Jack was carried into the cool, shadowy interior of the ship. The hatch closed behind them with a heavy hiss. The market sounds disappeared, replaced by the hum of the ship's systems. The smell inside was clean, but sharp, like metal and strange flowers. They set him down, not gently, but not roughly, either onto a padded bench. One of them pressed something on the wall, and metal cuffs slid from the seat, locking around his wrists. "Hey," Jack struggled. "What is this? Who sent you?" The taller woman knelt so her face was level with his. She studied him, eyes scanning his face as if memorizing every detail. Then she spoke, her voice low. "Our queen." Jack stared. "Queen? What queen?" The woman didn't answer. She stood, walked to the cockpit, and spoke to the pilot in their alien language. The ship's engines roared to life, and Jack felt the floor vibrate. He looked at the second woman, hoping she might explain. She only shook her head and said softly, "Do not fight. It will be worse if you fight." Jack swallowed hard. The vibration grew stronger. Gravity seemed to pull at him. Through the small window, he saw the market fade into the distance. The ship rose higher and higher until the colony was just a patchwork of colors. The silence inside felt heavy. His heart pounded in his ears. He thought about the words, "You were chosen." The queen. Chosen for what? And why him? As the ship pierced the clouds and the blue sky turned black, Jack realized something. Whatever was waiting for him out there, it was not going to be something he could laugh off. Jack's hands were still locked in the cold cuffs. When the ship slowed, the stars outside shifted as the vessel moved into the shadow of something massive. He leaned toward the small window, and saw a city floating in space. It was built inside a colossal ring, its walls glowing faint blue. Towers curved upward like frozen waves, and hundreds of smaller ships moved between them like insects. The two alien women didn't speak to him. They moved with quiet discipline, checking weapons and adjusting armor straps. One of them caught him watching and gave him a look that made his stomach twist. It wasn't cruel, but it was possessive. The ship entered a docking tunnel, and lights flashed across the hull. There was a faint hiss as the air inside adjusted. The hatch opened, and the women motioned for him to stand. The cuffs retracted into the seat, leaving faint marks on his skin. Jack rubbed his wrists, but didn't dare run. There was nowhere to go. They stepped into a vast docking bay filled with soldiers. All of them were women, towering, armored, and carrying weapons that seemed alive with faint energy. Conversations died as they walked past. Dozens of golden eyes turned to watch him. It wasn't curiosity. It was as if they were measuring him. Jack's escorts led him through a wide hall, lined with silver pillars. Strange banners hung above, each marked with a symbol like a curved blade and a star. The air smelled of incense and metal. The sound of boots echoed sharply on the polished floor. At the far end, huge doors opened without a sound. Beyond them lay a throne room unlike anything Jack had seen. The ceiling stretched high into darkness, and the walls shimmered with living light. In the center, on a raised platform, sat the queen. She was taller than his escorts, her silver armor shaped like flowing water. Her golden eyes glowed brighter, and her hair, long and black, seemed to catch light that wasn't there. Around her stood more guards, all watching him in complete silence. Jack stopped at the base of the platform. The taller of his escorts bowed deeply and spoke in their alien tongue. The queen's gaze locked on him, and he felt a weight in his chest, like she could see through his skin. Her voice was calm, but carried across the room without effort. "You are the human named Jack." Jack swallowed. "Yeah, that's me." She tilted her head slightly. "You were brought here because you are the only one who can do what must be done." Jack's mouth went dry. "And what exactly is that?" The queen didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood and descended the steps toward him. The guards tensed, and the sound of their armor shifted like a warning. She stopped close enough for him to feel the heat of her presence. Her eyes never left his. "You will understand," she said. "But first, you will prove you are worthy." Before he could ask how, the floor around them shifted. Panels slid away, revealing a wide arena below the throne. The ground was scarred and dark, weapons scattered in the dust. Somewhere in the shadows, something growled. The queen turned her back to him and walked toward her throne again. "If you live," she said, "we will speak." Jack's stomach nodded as two guards took him by the arms and guided him down a narrow path into the arena. He didn't know what was waiting for him there, but every step made the air feel heavier. Somewhere above, hundreds of eyes were watching, silent, expectant. This was no joke, no misunderstanding. He was deep inside their world now, and whatever game they were playing, the first move was his. The ground felt alive under Jack's boots. Dust rose in thin clouds, clinging to his throat with every breath. The air was hot and carried the sharp scent of something animal. Somewhere in the shadows ahead, claws scraped against stone. He kept his eyes moving, searching for movement. The arena walls were high and smooth. No way out unless he could climb sheer metal. Above, alien faces leaned over the railing, silent, waiting. The queen sat on her throne, her glowing eyes following him like a hunter tracking prey. A hiss echoed across the arena, low and long. Jack turned toward the sound. His heart pounded as a shape emerged from the darkness. At first, it looked like a large cat, but as it stepped into the light, he saw it was something far worse. Its body was sleek and scaled, muscles shifting under a hide that shimmered like oil. 4 eyes blinked in pairs, and its mouth split open in a jagged smile lined with curved fangs. 2 tails swayed behind it, each ending in a hooked blade. Jack had no weapon. He glanced around, saw the scattered remains of others who had been here before him, broken spears, cracked shields, a dented helmet, no bones, though the creature must have eaten everything. It moved closer, the ground trembling under its weight. Its eyes glowed, faint red, locked on him. Jack grabbed the nearest thing he could, a short piece of metal pipe. It felt light, too light to do any real damage, but it was all he had. The beast struck first. Tails whipping forward, Jack threw himself to the side, rolling across the dust. The hook of one tail cut through the air where his head had been. He scrambled to his feet, pipe raised, breathing hard. The crowd above did not cheer. They only watched, as if deciding whether he was worth the queen's time. The creature lunged again, claws tearing the ground. Jack sidestepped, swinging the pipe with all his strength. It slammed against the side of the beast's head. The sound was like hitting metal. The beast barely flinched. Jack backed up fast. His mind raced. He couldn't match its strength, but maybe he could outthink it. The tails moved like whips, fast but predictable. He waited until one lashed forward again, then caught the hook in the curve of his pipe. Twisting hard, the beast roared, a deep chest-rattling sound. It yanked back, but Jack held on, feeling his shoulders strain. Then he let go, using the pull to dive toward a half-buried spear in the dirt. He grabbed it, spun, and jabbed toward its chest. The spear hit, not deep enough to kill, but enough to make the beast stagger. Its roar turned into a shriek, and it came at him faster, claws flashing. Jack barely ducked under the swipe. Feeling the wind of its strike brush his hair, he stumbled, fell hard. The spear clattered out of reach. The beast loomed over him, shadows swallowing its form. Jack's fingers closed around a fist-sized rock. He didn't think. He threw it straight into the creature's front eyes. The rock hit with a wet crack. The beast reared back in pain. Jack lunged for the spear again. This time, when it lowered its head, he drove the weapon with all his weight into the soft spot under its jaw. The scream shook the air. The beast thrashed, tail striking wildly. Jack rolled away just before one blade buried itself in the dirt beside him. The creature collapsed, legs twitching, for a long moment. The arena was silent, except for Jack's heavy breathing. Then, above, a slow clap began. The queen was standing, her eyes fixed on him. "You may live," she said, her voice carrying easily to where he stood. For now, Jack dropped the spear, his arms trembling. He knew this was only the beginning. Whatever she wanted from him, he had just passed the first test. The guards escorted Jack out of the arena through a narrow metal passage. The roar of the engines and the hum of strange machines echoed around him. His legs were heavy, his shirt soaked with sweat and dust. Every step reminded him of the fight he had barely survived. They led him back into the throne room. This time, the queen did not sit. She stood at the edge of her platform, her golden eyes fixed on him as if studying a rare weapon. The guards stopped and stepped back, leaving Jack alone in the center of the vast chamber. "You live," the queen said, her voice calm but carrying a strange weight. "That means you are worth speaking to." Jack swallowed. "I'm listening." She moved closer, each step slow, deliberate. Her armor shimmered like liquid silver, catching the light from the glowing walls. When she stopped in front of him, she reached out not to strike but to touch his chin, tilting his head slightly, as if inspecting him. "My people are dying," she said simply. "The strongest of us cannot produce strong heirs anymore. Our blood has thinned. Our future is weak." Jack frowned. "And what does that have to do with me?" Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Your kind is different. Your blood is strong. Your body adapts in ways ours cannot. We have searched hundreds of worlds, and none matched what we needed, until you." Jack stepped back, his voice low. "So, you brought me here too. Breed for you." The queen didn't flinch. "I brought you here to save an empire." He shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping him. "Save an empire? I'm just a guy from a farming colony. You survived the trial," she said, her tone sharp now. "Not by strength alone, but by will. That is the trait we cannot create in a lab. That is the trait our children must have, or we will fall. Jack's heart pounded. And if I say no? Her voice cooled. You will not leave this city alive. The silence between them was heavy, somewhere deep in the palace. A low drum began to beat, slow and steady. The queen's gaze didn't waver. She wasn't trying to scare him, she was simply stating truth. Jack felt anger rising. He hated being treated like a thing. But under that anger, there was something else, something in her voice, in her words, carried the weight of desperation. She wasn't just a ruler making demands. She was a leader trying to keep her people from disappearing forever. Still, he clenched his fists. You can't just expect me to agree because you say so. A faint smile touched her lips. That is why you were chosen. Human males from your world do not bend easily, but you will understand, in time. Before he could reply, the doors opened, and the two alien women who had first carried him entered. One carried a small glowing device. The other held a folded cloth of deep crimson. They stopped beside the queen and bowed. The queen looked back at Jack. Tomorrow, you will see the truth of our need. Tonight, you will be shown where you will. Stay, rest well, human. The days ahead will test more than your body. As the women approached to escort him away, Jack's thoughts raced. He didn't know whether to be afraid, angry, or curious. But one thing was certain, this was no accident. Somewhere, long before today, his fate had been chosen. The room they gave Jack was not a prison cell, but it didn't feel like freedom either. The walls were made of smooth black stone that seemed to absorb light. One side had a tall window showing the endless cityscape, towers rising into the misty night. The other side held a bed covered in soft silver fabric that shimmered faintly. The door slid open, and one of the alien women stepped in. It was the same one who had first grabbed his arm back in the market. Her armor was gone now, replaced by a long dark robe tied at the waist. Her hair was loose, falling in waves over her shoulders, without the armor. She looked less like a soldier and more like a person. She carried a tray with strange food, strips of meat that glowed faintly, and a cup filled with deep blue liquid. She set it down on the table and stepped back. Her golden eyes studied him carefully. You should eat, she said, her voice calm, but softer than before. Jack didn't move. You didn't answer me back then, he said quietly. Why me? She hesitated, her gaze lowering for a moment. It is not my place to question the queen's choice. That's not an answer, Jack said, his tone sharper than he intended. Her eyes lifted again, and for the first time, he saw something different in them, not authority, not command, but something close to sadness. She stepped closer, her voice even lower now. My people are proud, she said, too proud to admit weakness. For years we have hidden the truth, but every season our numbers fall. Every season our warriors die in battles. We can no longer win. The queen believes your kind holds the key, and when the queen believes, we obey. Jack leaned back against the wall, his arms crossed. And do you believe it? She looked at him for a long moment before answering. I believe. I have seen too much death. If there is a way to stop it, I will follow it. Silence filled the space between them. Jack's anger was still there, but now there was something else, a flicker of understanding. He could hear the exhaustion in her voice, the kind that came from carrying too many losses. She stepped toward the window, looking out at the city lights. When we carried you from the market, you thought it was a joke, she said without looking at him. It was not. It was the most important order I have ever been given. Jack stared at her back, wondering if she was telling him the whole truth or only what she was allowed to say. Then she turned, a faint smile on her lips. Eat, human. You will need your strength. The queen's trials are not over. Jack didn't answer, but when she left, he found himself looking at the food longer than he expected. Something told him he was going to need more than strength. He was going to need to decide what side he was really on. The lights in Jack's room dimmed as night fell over the alien city. He was still sitting by the window, staring at the glowing towers, when he heard a faint sound like metal scraping against stone. He turned his head, listening harder. It wasn't coming from the hall, it was coming from outside. Before he could react, the glass of the tall window shimmered, a sharp crack spread across it. A shadow moved on the other side. Jack stood up, fast, his hand instinctively searching for something to use as a weapon. The window burst inward, shards scattering across the floor. A figure in black armor landed silently inside. It was smaller than the alien women he had met, but its movements were fast, precise. Its mask had 2 glowing red lenses, and in its hand was a curved blade. Jack froze for a second, but then the door to his room slid open. The alien woman from earlier stepped in, holding a tray with another drink. Her eyes widened when she saw the intruder. The tray clattered to the floor. The assassin moved instantly, lunging toward her. She barely raised her arm before the blade sliced across her robe. Jack didn't think. He grabbed the heavy chair from the corner and swung it with all his strength. The chair smashed into the intruder's side, knocking them off balance. The assassin spun, trying to recover, but Jack was already moving. He tackled them, the 2 of them crashing into the wall. The blade scraped dangerously close to his ribs. The alien woman didn't hesitate. She snatched the fallen tray and slammed it against the attacker's head. The red lenses cracked. A muffled hiss escaped from inside the mask. The intruder kicked Jack hard in the chest, sending him to the floor, but before they could finish the strike, the alien woman drove her knee into their stomach and twisted the blade from their hand. She pressed the edge to the intruder's throat, speaking sharp words in her own language. The assassin froze, then hissed something back. The woman's eyes narrowed. She shoved them toward the broken window, and without a sound, they leaped back into the night. Vanishing into the city's shadows, Jack pushed himself up, coughing. What the hell was that? She was breathing hard, the blade still in her hand. Not everyone in this city wants the Queen's plan to succeed, she said, her voice tight. If you die, so does her hope. Jack stared at her, still catching his breath. So you're saying they came for me? Her golden eyes met his. No, she said quietly. They came for both of us. The weight of her words sank in. He had thought he was just some human caught in a strange political game. But now he understood his survival was tied to hers, and maybe to something even bigger. She tossed the blade aside and stepped closer. You fought for me tonight, she said, her tone softer than before. That is not something my people forget. Jack didn't reply, but deep down, he knew. Something had shifted. He had saved her life, and in doing so, had crossed a line he could never step back from. The next morning, the city was different. The streets below Jack's window were lined with soldiers, banners of crimson and silver hanging from every tower. Drums echoed through the air, slow and steady, carrying a weight that made the hair on his arms stand up. The alien woman entered his room without armor, this time, only a thin silver sash across her shoulder. Her golden eyes held no trace of the softness from the night before. The Queen has called for you, she said. They walked through the palace halls, the sound of the drums growing louder with every step. When they reached the throne room, the great doors swung open to reveal the Queen standing, not seated. Her armor gleamed under the pale light, and the entire court stood silent behind her. Jack stopped at the center of the room. The alien woman stood at his side, her presence steady but tense. The Queen's gaze locked on him, and for a moment, no one spoke. Finally, she descended the steps, each movement smooth and deliberate. Last night, she said, you fought not only for yourself, but for one of my own. You have proven strength, will, and loyalty. Her eyes flicked to the woman beside him. Qualities our future must have. Jack's jaw tightened. And now you're going to tell me what this has all been for. Her golden eyes narrowed. I will tell you, but you already know. She raised her hand, and a servant stepped forward, carrying a small sphere of glowing blue light. Inside it, Jack saw images: alien cradles, empty nurseries, soldiers falling in battle, cities fading to ruin. "My people are dying," she said, her voice steady, but heavy with something almost human grief. "We have no time left. You will join with us. Your blood will become ours, and the next generation will survive." Jack's stomach twisted. "And if I refuse?" The Queen's voice was like cold steel. "Then we die, and your name will be remembered as the one who could have saved us, but chose not to." The hall was silent, all eyes on him. The alien woman at his side didn't speak, but her fingers curled slightly, as if holding back words she couldn't say. Jack looked at her, remembering the way she had stood over him in the arena, the way she had fought beside him against the assassin. He took a slow breath. "If I do this, it's on my terms." The Queen's brow lifted slightly. "Terms? I'm not a tool," he said, his voice firm. "If I'm helping you, I want my people protected. I want a seat in whatever passes for your council. And I want her," he nodded toward the woman beside him, "to be my guard. No one else." A faint murmur swept through the court. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then her lips curved into the smallest of smiles. "Agreed." The alien woman's eyes widened, but she quickly lowered her head, hiding whatever she was feeling. The Queen stepped back, raising her voice, for the entire hall to hear. "From this day, the human Jack stands under my protection. His life is bound to ours. His blood will carry us into the next age." The drums thundered. The court bowed. Jack stood tall, his heart pounding. He had walked into this city as a prisoner, but now he was something else entirely. Somewhere deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning.